circuit. We're on the back straight, up into 6th gear as he goes along the back straight into the kink. That's a really quick left-hand kink, but then it's hard on the brakes, down those gears. This is where the car balance, the car setup is so important, as we were talking earlier in the race. Interesting to see just how even-handed these two Target Ganassi cars are, isn't it? Jimmy Vasser, the reigning champion, Alex Zanardi, as you were saying, Robin, a guy that you chased as a Formula One driver, but the two of them remarkably well matched in this race.
Yes, I'm sure they've got similar setups on, and they're two very good drivers. Is it 25 races that Vasser's finished on the trot? Incredible. I've done anything like it before in any form of racing.
It's an amazing reliability record, and you have to put some of that down to the driver, a lot of it down to the driver, because obviously he doesn't make many silly mistakes. We'll probably put the curse on him now, having said that, but Jimmy has been remarkably consistent. He stays out of trouble, and of course a little bit criticised for that way of winning the championship last year, but it's all about winning championships, isn't it? So you can't take it away from him. Scott Pruitt still running well. He's in 9th place, and one to watch, no doubt about that, because of the pit stop strategy that he's on, this slightly different strategy. 10th place, 9th place at the moment, he's behind Zanardi. Rahal still leads. De Ferran in 2nd place, and then Tracy, Herta, Unser in 5th. As you can see, Greg Moore still in 6th place, and then Vasser, Zanardi, Pruitt. Bozell is in 10th place, Blundell 11th, Jourdain in 12th. Then Sales, Johnston, Hearn, Jones, Papis, Moreno. But Moreno some 4 laps down now as you ride on board the race-leading car of Bobby Rahal. And then switch to the battle to 2nd place. Still some 55 laps to go here at Rio. And everything very remarkably settled at the moment. We haven't really seen much in the way of overtaking for a few laps. Still this battle between Gilles de Ferran and Paul Tracy. This is the battle for 2nd place, but Paul Tracy just doesn't seem to be able to get any closer than this. About a car length away from the back of de Ferran's car, and then he just can't seem to get any closer. It looks as though the Honda has the straight line speed, doesn't it? Or whether it's the aerodynamic setup, or whether it's the power, difficult to tell, but he just stretches it a bit at the end of the straights, doesn't he?
Yep.
So de Ferran, and into the pits there, Alex Zanardi now, as you said, Robin, just about on cue. Next round of pit stops taking place. Alex Zanardi there. Fairly clean, gets the new set of tyres on and back out.
That's interesting because he's now going out in the same, has one more pit stop to make, as does Pruitt, and we'll see how Pruitt is in relation to him, but all we need is another yellow.
Yeah, another yellow flag and it all changes around again. 1 or 2 others coming into the pits as well. As Alonso Jr. in fact is next into the pits, that drops him down the order. But another very important stop, and they're all going to build up towards the charge. Still some way to go in this race.
Yeah, the top guys are averaging about 40 laps on their runs, and that includes quite a few yellows. So what are we going to see? 40, 80, 120, and then there's 13 laps of the last run. Except for Pruitt, who'll be about 30 laps on his 25, 30 laps on his last run.
So it's all going to be settled at the checker flag. Jimmy Vasser comes into the pits as well, but Bobby Rahal, the race leader, still hasn't come into the pits, nor has Gilles de Ferran, running there in 2nd place. There's Vasser into the Chip Ganassi crew. Had a little bit of an incident in the Surface Paradise race, and one of his wheels got left behind. It was more of a problem for Gugelmin than it was for Jimmy Vasser. And looks as though things are okay. A little bit long time getting all that fuel in, but eventually they get all the fuel in, and Jimmy Vasser is able to rejoin the fray. Winner of 4 races last year to take the championship, but it doesn't look as though he's going to win this afternoon. Gilles de Ferran comes in, slows it down to the 60-mile-an-hour speed limit as he comes down the pit lane, and this of course a vital stop. They made a brilliant stop last time, remember, Robin? Yeah. Do you reckon they can do the same this time?
They obviously can do it. Whether they will, we'll see it happening.
Interesting to see how slight difference on the different chassis. Some of the refueling rigs going in more at the side, some more over the top. Sure. Just the different design of the fuel tanks and the way the fuel goes in. Gilles de Ferran gets out, looks like a clean stop, but Herta has got out ahead of him, I think. Yeah. Brian Herta, slightly quicker stop from the team Rahal car of Brian Herta. So Gilles de Ferran now has got some extra work to do to get past that car. And as we've seen, overtaking is proving difficult. Race leader into the pits. Here's an important one. Now they should be pretty buoyed up by the fact that they did a great stop, although it's a slightly different crew. And the Miller Lite guys go to work on Bobby's car as opposed to the Shell guys. There you can see the fuel goes in to the top of that one, and out comes Rahal.
You can see that what determines the pit stop length is actually getting the fuel in. I mean, everybody's finished changing the tyres and doing any mods or whatever, adjustments to the wing or whatever, and the guy's still putting the fuel in, and that determines the pit stop length. And pretty much there's not much you can do about that. They're stuck with the length of time it takes to put 40 gallons or whatever into the car.
They're not allowed a pressurized system to put that fuel in either, so you just have to wait for it to feed into the fuel tank. And Greg Moore into the pits now as well. So we've got Paul Tracy, no, in fact Scott Pruitt now leading this race, and so he's back up there once again. Paul Tracy is into the pits now for his stop, but Pruitt will still have to make another stop, as will these guys. It really depends on how many more yellow flags we get now, and that's going to be the interesting one. Greg Moore comes back out cleanly. Let's just look further down the list of those people that have been into the pits already. It's looking as though Bobby Rahal made a good quick stop and didn't really lose much ground on any of the others that were around him. De Ferran lost out to Herta, as we know, and Unser Junior, Zanardi, Vassar, they've all basically kept the same position. There is Mark Blundell, and he's coming under pressure to be lapped by the looks of things from Scott Pruitt. In fact, they've slowed right down now, so it looks as though we've got, oh yes, indeed, Walter Salles has gone off. Walter Salles has had a spin in the number 77 car, the Brazilian, the young Brazilian, who's been doing well in qualifying, but he's been doing this a bit too often as well. Getting sort of halfway through the race, difficult to know what happened, maybe involved in traffic or in somebody else's accident. But Walter has had a few of these spins throughout the course of the season so far. Now we are on caution number 7. Yellow flags come out just a moment too late for an awful lot of guys.
Absolutely, I was just looking at the list to see if anybody's lucked in on that one. But I think all the top guys are in.
I think everybody has actually been in for their stop, so I don't think anybody's going to be able to gain particularly out of this one. Gualda Salles actually getting out of the car there, except he's running away with him. Here we are, here's a replay, Robin, let's see what happened. Well, there was smoke pouring out of the car, a fluid leak. So I've maligned Gualda there because it wasn't his mistake. It was fluid leaking onto the rear tyres that caused him to spin. And you can see, well, in fact, it's fairly obvious. You can see the amount of fluid there as was dropped. Now, that's going to take a little bit of clearing up. Hopefully it was just water out of the radiator in the side pod, although they are putting down cement dust. So it could well have been oil. And that's not going to make life very easy for anyone who might try to go around the outside there. Plenty of cement dust being chucked down, and that's going to cause a fairly long yellow flag, which certainly could assist a certain Scott Pruitt.
Yeah, they've got, what is it, 48 laps to go, and it looks like 40 is the maximum you can go on one stop. So if there's a 7 or 8 lap yellow here, people could take advantage of it. Even the ones who've just done their pit stop could come in again.
Yes, in fact it may, if it's a long enough yellow, it could actually fall back into the hands of the Rahals of this world, couldn't it? The Rahals, the Tracys, and Brian Hertas, rather than Scott Pruitt. It's a fascinating tactical battle that nobody knows the outcome until the end of the race, including the guys down in the pits. Pruitt leads here after 87 laps from Bozell Jourdain, but it'll all change soon. Taking advantage of this yellow flag to make another stop. Now, they're counting on being able to make it through to the end, presumably, here, Robin. But that's going to be fairly tight.
It is. That's, what, 44 laps. Yes, it's very tight. They must suspect that this yellow is going to go on for a couple more laps yet.
It's quite likely. We saw a lot of oil down, a lot of cement dust down.
Right on the limit.
It's quite possible, but that's an interesting call from Pat Patrick's team. And both cars being brought in at the same time, and the other guys out here, the likes of Rahal, Tracy and Herta, who are our top 3 at the moment behind the pace car, although you've actually got Andre Ribeiro in there as a lapped car. Rahal, Tracy, Herta, they will also have to make another stop before the end of the race, but they may well decide to come in under the yellow as well. Richie Herd gets a push start, and that's why we've got this yellow. The car's still there, and as you say, it's likely to take a little while. Look how long that line is, that line of cement dust, right into the apex, or nearly into the apex, right on line anyway, through that corner.
Even though the leaders have got quite a bit of fuel on, I'm sure they're considering coming in now to top up, as they say, which gives them the full fuel load to get to the end of the race. It's right on the limit. But that might be a few laps of yellows, and that might just enable them to do it. And there's bound to be a few more yellows. So bound to be. The odds are there will be a few more yellows anyway.
Just looking again at what happened to Vuelta Sales with oil pouring out of it, or whatever it was. It certainly looks blue smoke oil. And then you look as he slides at the great slick being laid underneath the car. Absolutely dreadful. That's really gone bang in a big way. So Sales causing this yellow flag period, as Rahal leads Tracy and Herta. Greg Moore in 4th place. Gilles de Ferran 5th. We'll take advantage of the yellow flag to take it on the break and bring you racing when we come back. Welcome back to Rio, but we're also looking ahead, of course, to the next race, the Motorola 300 from Madison. The St. Louis track is a brand new circuit, a brand new oval on the calendar, and that'll be coming up in a couple of weeks' time. Live here on Eurosport, we'll be bringing you all the information. We'll be bringing you our preview programs as well, news of qualifying, interviews with the drivers, the full works from the Madison race. It should be an interesting one on a brand new track. But back to the action here, behind yellow flags, or on a yellow flag behind the pace car. Looking at some of the cars out of the race: Fernandez, Carpentier, Franchitti, Arndt Meyer, Paul Jasper, all out of the race after 90 laps. Also Matsushita, Gujamin, Andretti and Walter Sales out of the race. But still a remarkably high number of cars in the race. There's that oil slick that the drivers can have to deal with, and that we've seen enough problems coming out of turn 4 without any oil down. I would dread to think what's going to happen when we get the restart underway here. Brazilian crowd still enjoying this battle, but they have seen their main man fall down the order. Their stop, the de Ferran stop, was not as good on that last round, and he has dropped down to 5th place now. Remember, he was running in 2nd, being pushed by Paul Tracy for many, many laps, but Tracy is now there in 2nd, right behind Bobby Rahal. And then Bryan Herta is 3rd. Absolutely brilliant performance from the two Team Rahal cars, 1st and 3rd at the moment, Robin. And this is a big improvement in form to what we've seen so far this year.
Yeah, indeed. I think they've got their car working very well. It's I understand that everybody out there at the races is very happy. They're very happy with the work they've done on the circuit. It's always a nice place to be. You go and play football on the beach. The place actually is called Jacapragua, which I believe means the Lake of the Crocodiles. There's a thundering great lake by the side of the circuit, which we always used to steer fairly clear of. There's also a model aircraft flying place nearby, where Ayrton Senna made a beeline for when he, in his Brazilian racing days, was one of his great loves was racing model aircraft.
That's right, and a radio-controlled helicopter as well. I think he used to use in his off moments when he wasn't actually debriefing, which was a fairly rare occurrence when he wasn't debriefing.
Yeah.
So there's de Ferran running around in 5th position now. De Ferran actually is not from Rio. He was born in Paris, in fact, funnily enough, in France, but brought up in Sao Paulo. So he's a very sort of international driver, really. And of course, he spent a lot of time in the UK racing for the Paul Stewart racing team, and won the British Formula 3 Championship with them back in 1992, and then raced for a couple of seasons of Formula 3000 in Europe, again with Paul Stewart Racing. So he's really come from a background of European racing, if you like, but now gone over to the Kart Championship and doing an excellent job. Had one win last year, one win the previous year in 95 as well, and he's really been a front runner consistently, but a change of team this year from Jim Hall's outfit to Derek Walker. How would you, I mean, Robin, you know, I'm sure you know the two guys extremely well, both Jim Hall and Derek Walker. Would there be a big difference in the way they run the teams?
I'd scarcely think you could get two more different people. I mean, Jim Hall is essentially an engineer, and his innovative years with General Motors really was the person who was responsible for putting wings on racing cars with Chaparral, and he put the ground effect sucker cars with his fan arm and stuff like that. It was brilliant. He really isn't by nature a team manager. Derek Walker is. He works everybody hard, but himself hardest of all, and is not essentially an engineer. He's an out-and-out team manager, and I think he's the best, as good as anybody else.
As you said earlier,